pretty on her climbing adventures. Got the boys over here in their new enclosure area. One of the chickens got in, and that is actually one of the things that made me think about a lot of things. One of the chickens got in. I thought to myself, did she go over? I mean, she's pretty young. And then I realized that the gap that I didn't think was a big deal for the geese will definitely be a big deal if I let my roosters out in this area and don't want them to be able to access the rest of the flock. Now, before I let the roosters out, I do need to build this up a little bit higher to make sure they won't go over the fence and start fighting and terrorize the girls. But I also need to make sure that I close this gap over here because you'd be surprised how well chickens can fit through small areas. Like, and I'm sure I'm exaggerating right now in a way, but like a good 50% of their size is all just fluff. Okay. Like, yes, boys, I know, I'm sorry, but you guys are fighting. You can't come out. Come out until you get over yourself. Anyway, as always, I've got several chores to do, several things to take care of. Hey, lady, leave Nugget alone. Nugget has finally gone into the nest to lay an egg, and I'm really hoping that she will, because it has been months since I've been able to confirm that she laid an egg, which has me concerned now for a while. I need to do some spot cleaning in the coop. It's way overdue. I've been so distracted with the ganders and all that, and just working days and days on trying to get all that taken care of. I've got a lot of tidying up to do out here, a lot of cleaning up to do, but it's also the month of both of my children's birthdays. So I've had a lot of other things to do as well, and a lot of other things to focus on that are obviously taking priority because my children, not that my animals are not taken care of during that time. I'm simply saying that my kids come first. Anyway, another egg. So we've got 4 eggs so far. Nugget is sitting right now. She's complaining, which makes me think that she wants to lay an egg. And Spicy is relentless, so I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to push out Nugget. Spicy, Spicy, leave her alone. Come on. These girls will fight over one nest, even though they have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 areas to lay eggs without being disturbed, but they'll still run around complaining and making a ruckus because that one nest, the one they want, is not available. Hi, Layla. Hi, Layla. I need to get that wire out of here and get ready to start reseeding the center of my yard. Come on, Spicy. Come on. I want all the chickens out. Come on. Nugget has not laid an egg in a long time, and I don't want you pushing her off and causing issues. Are you going to stay inside, little one? Huh? Hi, Goofy. Hi, Crispy. I love you, Crispy. You are just the cutest little thing. You know that? Isn't she just the cutest little chicken? And somebody else wants attention. Hi, Keisha. Hi, Keisha. Hi, Keisha. Keisha is, to the best of my knowledge, this is from my childhood, is the Russian word for cat. I think it's one of the cutest names for cats. Nope, 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 nope. There. Now, I won't kick her out simply because, one, she doesn't pose a risk for kicking Nugget off the nest. She's not going to be able to get her to move. But second, what's most important is that she tends to spend most of her time inside. Notice how she's very jumpy. Yeah, she's jumpy because she's always nervous about one of the chickens trying to submit her. She's the smallest one out of the flock. She's the tiniest chicken in the whole flock. But she also is a frazzle, meaning that her feathers don't do well. She was basically bred wrong, giving her 2 of the curly feather genetic, making her feathers very curly, which sure looks adorable right now, but if you only go like a couple months back on my videos, you'll see that all of these feathers were all gone. All of the feathers on her head were all gone. She was mostly naked. And the reason why she was naked is because her feathers, they pull out very easily. And you can see she has like no down between her feathers. Like there's nothing that's really keeping her warm. You can easily see her skin. And that shouldn't be the case. So this, and you can see all the little coverings of her feathers right here. That's because she's been recently regrowing her feathers. Finally, I'm super excited about it. I'm glad that she's regrowing them. Want some scratches on the back of your head? Hmm? 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 Are you a Brit? Hmm? Are you like the cockatiels? Yes, you're a good girl, Crispy. Anyways, Crispy is a sweet little chicken. She's an absolute sweetheart. And she's just the cutest little goofy butt. She's a Bantam Cochin Frizzle. Well, what she's supposed to be is a frizzle, but she's turned out to be a frazzle. Frazzle happens if you take 2 frizzles and breed them together. They will create some frazzles. And frazzles tend to either not grow feathers, not retain the feathers that they grow. They have very brittle feathers, and they often are missing that down that's supposed to be there. And this makes them very susceptible to getting cold, struggling to keep their body temperature in line. A lot of frazzles end up being indoor chickens, just because they cannot handle the cold outside in most states. They genuinely struggle with it. And to get healthy frizzles that have beautiful fluffy feathers for appearance, but are also, healthier and don't have as much as a problem as a frazzle does, you actually need to make sure to always breed a frizzle with a regular feathered chicken. Always make sure that when you're breeding them or when you're mating them or hatching out any eggs, that you don't hatch out eggs if you think that both parents had fluffy or curly feathers. You want to make sure you don't do that, because otherwise you end up with these little frazzles a lot of times, and they just struggle so much with their feathers and with their down. It's just not fair. Right, babies? And she's such a sweetheart. I mean, seriously, she's been able to run away this whole time, and she's just hanging out letting me pet her. Like little Bantam Cochin frizzles, Bantam Cochins. They're such sweet little chickens. Right, Goofy? Yes, I know, I know. I know, Mama. Yes. Good girl. Good girl. Let's go check on Layla. Hi, Layla. Hi, Layla. Here, let me grab this water for you. Would you like to take a sip of the water? Yeah, you're such a hard-working mama. Kisia's outside complaining. I know you can hear her. I know you don't like the cats. Go ahead. Go ahead, Layla. Drink some water. I know you're not eating or drinking. I know. In a couple of hours, I'll have to force you off your nest again. You have to take baths and get a sip of water and eat some food. Don't shake your head at me. You have to eat and drink, young lady. How are you going to raise them babies if you don't survive incubating them? You got to do what's right for yourself, too. You can't be a caregiver if you don't take care of yourself. Yeah, take it from me. I know. I am a caregiver. Yeah, I am. Yes. Yes. I'm married to a disabled veteran. Yes. That's something I had to learn, too. And I still suck at it. I still suck at it. Not at the caregiving part. At the taking care of myself part. She likes to play with my jewelry. She finds it fascinating. The shiny stuff. She likes to nibble on it and check it out. Like, look. How much you want to bet she'll go for the ring? Layla. Layla. It's okay. Kitty's outside. She won't come in. She hates the cats. I don't know if she fears them or hates them. I don't know what her experience with cats is, but she's a bunch of stray cats that we have on our property. They've all been around the bird to as much as I can teach them not to attack, eat, or chase, or pounce on, or play with birds. That birds are not for them to eat or play with. Hey, Nugget. I made sure to get everybody else out of here so you could have peace and quiet. You hear me? Yes. So you can take your time, okay? I'll leave the door closed for a while, and I'll come check on you again soon, okay? Just start bucking really loud. I'll hear you. All right? You okay, Nuggy? Mommy loves you, mamas. Yes, Mama loves you. Your mama's a pretty girl. Go ahead and lay an egg. My daughter has been waiting for months. Nugget is her chicken. Like, that's her baby. Okay? That Nugget is the first chicken we ever got. She is, nope. Kisya? Kisya. Kisya. No. Nope. We're not doing that. Come here. No. No, no, no. You're not staying. No, you're not staying inside. No. You're leaving the girls alone. No. No. She wants attention, treats, one of those things. Anyway, so some of the mistakes I've made over time that I wanted to mention in this video are things like, one, randomly buying baby chicks at a store, thinking that there was no big difference between different chicken breeds. So for an example, these little frizzles, this is what a frizzle is supposed to look like. You guys just saw frazzles, which is what they look like when they're not bred properly. But if you breed them properly, like this one and that one, they're bred between a regular feathered chicken and one of these. Okay? And if you breed them that way, no cuddles? Okay. If you breed them that way, they come out like this, with curly feathers, nice and fluffy, right? And beautiful, adorable little chickens. But you can see they have a bunch of fluff in between the feathers, and you can't see their skin. So they still have that down. They still have some level of protection from the elements that helps them maintain their own body temperature, right? Now with the frazzle, they don't have that dense down underneath their feathers anymore. They cannot retain their feathers generally, and they end up struggling to maintain body temperature. I didn't know any of this, okay? And here's the other frizzle that we have. Hi, mamas. So the 3 black frizzles are the ones that I purchased from a store as chicks. I didn't even know they were frizzles. They were straight run bantams, okay? I did know how to feather sex to heighten the likelihood of them being females, but I didn't know anything about the breed itself. That was very stupid of me, okay? I should have left that place. I should have went and researched about frizzles. About bantams. I should have learned about the fact that they were going to be a smaller breed. I should have learned about the fact that there was a chance that they could have been frizzles, because that's very common for bantams to be frizzles. And I should have known what I was expecting, what I was getting myself into, because these birds do require a little bit extra, a little bit more protection, a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more care. What are you doing? What? 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 Why are you so hyper focused on me? What is it? What is it? Anyway, so the other mistake I made was, let's go all the way back. Whenever I first started with birds, incubating birds, right? And I started out incubating the birds, and it was a lot of fun. We did it as a homeschool project. We would always have a farm or a homestead where we would purchase a couple of fertile eggs, babies, and then we would incubate them. And we would always have this agreement with the homestead or the farm that once we had hatched and the babies had reached a certain age, we would then return them and they would take them back. Not refunding me any money, none of that stuff. It was just supposed to be, you're willing to take them back. It was never a large number. It was always like 1, 2, or 3 little eggs, unless they requested I hatched more. There's actually a gentleman where we ended up helping him because he was purchasing quail eggs and he was getting a bulk order because it was significantly cheaper for the giant and the minis, and they wouldn't all fit into his incubator. So he ended up using the opportunity of the fact that I and my children were basically hatching them out for homeschool purpose, and basically said, hey, I'll let you have them for free to hatch them out. Just bring them back after they hatch, right? So it ended up benefiting him as well because he didn't have the incubator space. He didn't have to buy another incubator to hatch out all the eggs. We got the joy of incubating and hatching all these adorable little chicks. We got to hang out with them. We got to hold them. We got to play with them. We got to raise them for a couple weeks. And we got to return them to him. And the children got to experience the entire process without ending up having the end result responsibility of having the birds for the remaining, going forward, between 2 and 15 years, depending on what breed of bird it is, how long they can live, what plan you have on how long you plan on keeping them, and all that other fun stuff, right? Or what purpose you're raising them for. So, Keisha, will you quit it? You are so hyper focused on cuddles today. My goodness. You keep almost tripping me. You know that? Look at her. She's losing her mind over wanting cuddles. Here. My goodness. My goodness, kitty. My goodness. My goodness. You're so spoiled. You're so spoiled. Oh. Anyway, so what I didn't do back then, which could have gone very wrong, is I never made sure that I had a guarantee. Okay? We ended up not having any issues with it, but I never made sure that there was a guarantee that they would take them back or that I had a plan B lined up. So since I was living in an HOA at the time, it was definitely something that I should have made sure of. So when I tell you guys that it could be a great idea to ask your local backyard bird owner, your local farm or homesteaders to see if you're homeschooling, or even just if you have kids and you want them to learn about embryos, about development, it's such a great way of doing it through candling and incubating. It can really teach the kids a lot, and kids generally love it, respond to it very well because it's so fascinating to see that little embryo grow. They grow so quickly, and you can see them kicking and spinning and bouncing all over the egg inside when you candle them. It's kind of like doing ultrasounds at home, right? And then they get to be there when they hatch, and it's like this fun experience to have that little baby and raise it up for a couple of weeks before you then bring them back to their farm. Make sure that you always have a plan B. So if for some reason that farmer changes their mind or the homesteader changes their mind, ask somebody who homeschools and might be living in an HOA or in a home or an apartment without a backyard or in a home that doesn't have the right, you know, conditions to be able to keep these animals. If something doesn't work out, you want to make sure that you have a couple of backup plans that if you end up not keeping, like not being able to return the birds to that farmer or homesteader where you got them from, that you have the ability to return them somewhere else. You never know. Life emergencies can happen. I'm not even talking about just a person backing out just to be mean or something. Life happens. Things happen. The person could have gotten sick, could have passed away during that time, God forbid. And the family is like, no, we're actually selling all the birds. We're not taking any more birds back, right? We're not taking any birds right now. These animals are not staying. Or we've, run into a horrible situation a month and a half later and they're not able to keep their birds or something happened, right? So you want to have that plan B in check. Want to have it there. And I didn't back then. And I luckily didn't end up in that situation, technically, but I could have. So the next thing that I would recommend is that don't always believe people. Not because they'll necessarily intentionally lie to you, but because they may not know 100% themselves. Pretty Bird wouldn't exist if I didn't believe that lady that the eggs were not fertile. To the best of her knowledge, based on what she told me, and she was very sure about it, her goose eggs had yet to be fertilized. Her geese had not started mating yet. So she was selling those eggs as eggs to eat, right? When my kids saw them, they thought, hey, we've been incubating eggs and hatching out these babies and giving them back. We can try these ones. I was like, no, not doing a goose. Too loud, too big, too aggressive, whatever, right? Stereotypical knowledge about geese as everyone else has, right? The lady approached and said, oh, no, no, they're not fertile. They're not fertilized, right? They're fertile, but they're not fertilized, right? As in, even if you put them in the incubator, life will not develop. They have not started mating yet. I believed her. Bought 2 eggs, figured why not let the kids try, let them see what happens when you try to incubate an egg that has not been fertilized. I just figured, let them experiment, let them check it out, right? And sure as heck, one of them started developing. And ta-da, we now have Pretty Bird. And I ended up in a situation where I'd never made an agreement with her to bring any animal back. Besides the point that now I had a gosling, I had not prepared to be raising a goose or gosling. I really didn't have much knowledge about geese. I had raised ducklings, but I had not raised goslings, assuming that ducklings and goslings were the same, which is another big mistake a lot of people make. Ducks and geese are very different from each other. They require very different just diets, very different, just there's a lot different about them. And they have similarities. Yes, they're both waterfowl, but I would I would be willing to argue that ducks are much more similar to chickens in their diet than they are to geese. Ducks are foragers, they eat a lot of protein and stuff, and geese are almost completely grazers. They are foragers in a sense of vegetation, whereas ducks are more, I guess, I don't know the right wording, but I would compare it to omnivores, as in they eat bugs and fruit and veggies. You know what I mean? Like they are more like all over the place, more like chickens, whereas geese are almost completely grain and vegetation and greens. So don't get me wrong, geese will eat the occasional bug or, fish or crab or, you know what I mean, or worm or whatever as well, but that's not like a main source of their diet. So, because they're grazers basically. So I made that same mistake as most of us do when we first get geese. We don't realize they're very, very different from ducks. They're not the same at all, and they require very different care and diet than what ducks do, which meant that I had lacked the research because I had not expected there to be a gosling. So at that point, I had to hurry up, and before the egg hatched, I now had to educate myself as fast as I possibly could to figure out how to raise a gosling, assuming it would be just like with the duckies, course, finding out that it was very different. And then after Pretty Bird hatched, that's the other thing, is that I saw, after falling in love with him, deciding to keep him, and not try to find him a farm or somewhere to go, which I don't regret at all. At this point, you got to keep in mind, we're living in an HOA neighborhood with a small rock backyard. And I did some research, and I found out that it's actually not uncommon for people to have pet geese. I didn't think anything of it. Huh? 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 Good girls. Huh? 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 Sorry. Spotted a hawk or falcon. Some sort of aerial predator. I've been trying to train my chickens to listen to my alarm sound as well, not just the roosters. Of course, Barbecue didn't give a flying, but everybody else went running. Good, Bibis! Good job! Good job, Bibis! Anyway, so at the time, I did my research. I decided to keep Pretty Bird as a pet goose indoors, which, now looking back on it, personally, I'm not saying other people are doing a bad thing, but personally, I don't believe that that was the right thing to do at the time. I should have put in much more effort for him to be outside and for him to have a friend much sooner than Nugget. We added Nugget when he was about 6, 7 months old. We added her in December. He hatched in April. So he was already much older. And that was the only other bird friend that he was experiencing. We did try to add a duckling for him as a friend, but he would just attack the duckling. We did it too late. He was much older already. No matter what I did over those weeks that we had that duckling, he was just plucking that duckling. He was attacking the duckling. He would not accept the duckling as a friend. So, and you can't really blame him because he didn't know birds. He was a lone gosling. The other egg never developed. It never hatched. It obviously was not fertilized, most likely, or the embryo died very early, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't fertilized because when I cracked it open, there was nothing. It just looked like an empty egg, like a regular, giant chicken egg, basically. And it just, one of those things where I made a mistake. I did not get Pretty Bird a buddy, and I should have focused on deciding to keep an animal such as Pretty Bird. I should have focused on, in my opinion, keep in mind, there's many different ways of doing things that can all be completely fine, where the animal can be completely okay. But based on my research, the way I feel about my research, I personally don't believe that keeping an animal such as this, who could live outdoors with a flock or with friends, indoors, this does not apply to animals that require special care due to disabilities or disadvantages. He could have been on his own. What are you doing? He's following me around. Hello. What's your name? Where you from? How long are you in town? Do you have an appointment? Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. You have an appointment? Hmm? Hi, baby. You want attention? Want attention? There's a lot of stuff that Pretty Bird did not learn that he should have learned in his earlier years because he didn't have goose friends. And because I was the only thing he knew, because the only thing he was imprinting on was humans as a gosling, he partially self-identifies in a way as a human or identifies myself as a goose. So he considers me a potential mating partner. This is why you see him do this. This nuzzling that he's doing. He's not really biting or nipping. He's mostly nuzzling. He's looking for a spot to hold on to try to mate me. He wants to mate. He wants to build a bond with me to be his mate because he thinks that I'm a candidate. Because I raised him by hand, he didn't know other geese for the longest time. And the thing is that even when I finally did bring Pretty Bird around other geese and introduce him to other geese, in the beginning he showed zero interest. He finally is showing interest to birds. He finally is showing interest into wanting to mate. And he has made it with Layla. And I'm very, very happy about that. I was so relieved when he, this season, for the very first time, showed interest in wanting to mate with the female goose and knowing what to do. Because some of them don't. Some of them never figure it out. And some of them are permanently so focused on their humans that it almost becomes, in a way, unhealthy for them. So my only thing is, I see no problem with having a close relationship with your birds, okay? Like with raising them by hand, by being involved every day with them, by hanging out with them, making sure that you have a good relationship with them, you know, taming them down, all the other fun stuff. I love my geese, okay? Absolutely love them. Well, every single one of them. But with Pretty Bird, he's so focused on me and my husband and my children as part of what his identity is that it's confusing to him. And for some geese, this can create permanent disadvantages for them later in life because geese do thrive from mating, having offspring. They're very family oriented. And the gander is so hyper focused on the human, and he never ends up mating with a female, even if he has females around eventually. He never acknowledges that, and he's constantly trying to mate with the human, right? And then he considers the human to be a valid choice because of how he was raised and how he depended on a human. And to top it off, he will potentially have this reinforced unknowingly so by the human because if I, like, say for an example, when I hatch out these goslings that I'm currently incubating and I bring them outside, right? He's going to look at that. He's going to think about the fact that he attempted to mate with me, right? He's going to see me bring him goslings and he's going to assume that those are goslings I hatched, okay? Like from him. He's going to think that I am proven to be a good mate, basically, right? Meaning that he doesn't need to mate with another goose because this goose has already brought him young. But I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to get at, is that we can make mistakes like this, reinforcing their behavior, reinforcing that connection that is not healthy for them. And I have done that in the past, accidentally, not intentionally. And I've done an extensive amount of research to try to rectify mistakes I have made in the past, to try to, you know, fix things. And there's only so much that I can do. Pretty Bird now having his own goose friends makes a huge difference. And so I generally recommend people that, hey, if you have a pet goose, I see nothing wrong with having a pet goose, with having a goose that you've tamed down, that you have a close relationship, whatever, okay? But I do recommend that if you're getting geese, always get 2 geese. Don't get one by yourself. If only one gosling hatches, try to make sure that gosling is around other geese, goslings, at least other birds, just in general, from the beginning. Like that it gets to be around other birds. Because there's a lot of stuff that a gosling learns from its siblings that has to do with just respecting each other's space, not being overly pushy, not being too clingy. There's a lot of things that we reinforce as humans that we just simply don't understand. And it becomes a negative later on. They need to know how to interact with other geese and they need to learn from those social interactions. How's the progress going, Nugget? Hmm? Hey, Mama. How you doing? Hi. Did you get it out yet? Hmm? You feeling okay? It's been a while since you've laid an egg that I'm aware of. How's it going, Mom? Nugget? You okay? Why are you frozen in place? Nugget. Nice sweet girl. So we got Nugget when Pretty Bird was a little over 6 months old. My daughter made a very clever argument. She's like, well, you have a pet goose. Why wouldn't I be able to have a pet chicken if I can prove I can take care of it? What do you say to that? Anyway, so Nugget joined in. At first, of course, Pretty Bird had pretty much no interest in Nugget. He was completely imprinted on myself and my husband and my children. Did not recognize other birds as being anything for him to even pay attention to. Completely pointless in his mind. Over time, he got used to Nugget, and he did connect with her. And Nugget has been raised around Pretty Bird, and that's where another mistake comes in. Nugget grew up without any other chickens. The only thing she grew up with was a goose, and she did so for almost 2 years out of her life. Okay, so for over a year and a half, Nugget didn't know anything other than Pretty Bird as being the only other goose or bird that she knows. And since Nugget was around Pretty Bird since she was a little chick, Nugget imprinted on Pretty Bird. And guess what that resulted in? A chicken who thinks she's a goose. So now I have a goose who thinks he's a human and a chicken who thinks she's a goose. Nugget, most of the time, refuses to hang out with the chickens. And she'll hang out with the geese. She's the last chicken to go into the coop because the geese stay out late. She is the only chicken that sleeps on the floor every night in a little dog kennel in a corner that she chooses to go into. It's not closed. It doesn't have a door like one that closes or anything. It's like a little dog house, I guess you would call it, like a small dog house. That's where she sleeps, okay, every night. And it's in the goose area. She's the only chicken that doesn't generally get attacked by the geese or chased off by the geese the way that any other chicken does, okay? She considers herself a goose. Uh-oh. Squirt is confronting Kesia. She's such a tough little bird. She's like, get back. I'll beat you up. Look at her go. And these cats have learned not to mess with the birds. Squirt's such a little badass. Anyway, so now I have Nugget, who generally, when there's a storm and it's raining a lot, right? Like if it's dribbling a little bit of rain, a lot of times chickens will stay out. Depending on your flock, a lot of times chickens will stay out and a little bit of dribbles or whatever, and they'll be like, ooh, sweet, worm coming out of the ground, right? As in, it's like a chance for them to go forage and get a bunch of bugs or whatever. Generally, if it's raining hard, chickens will go inside of the coop, correct? Anybody who owns chickens probably knows that whenever the weather is rough, there's a big storm, it's raining. Simba? 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 Hey! Simba! Nuh-uh! No. No. You don't mess with birds, you don't mess with squirrels. You got it? No. No. Uh-uh. You leave them babies alone. Anyway. All the new cats in the area, they've been teaching them bad stuff. Anyway. So, now, when it storms, and it's raining hard outside, Nugget will stay out. She thinks she's a goose. She's with the geese. She's always with the goose flock. So wherever the goose flock is, Nugget is. Wherever Pretty Bird is, Nugget is. So whenever it's raining up a storm and the geese are outside and just frolicking around and whatever, because it's raining and they're waterproof, Nugget's right there with them. So now I've got a soaked chicken running on my right on my backyard, and I'm trying to get her out of the rain, right? Trying to get her to get out of the rain, and she'll stand there, and I shit you not, excuse my French, but not joking here, not exaggerating. She'll stand there like an actual goose. Look up how geese stand during like storming rain, like strong rainfall, or during hail. You'll see that geese will stand towards the wind and angle their head upwards, their beak pointing upwards. It protects them from the impact, right? Putting their beak upwards like that, it makes it so that like the impact on their beak is not as hard, right? But they will do this to protect themselves. Nugget does that. She'll stand in a storm, all poofed up, okay, and just stand there with her head up. All the other chickens will go inside, but not Nugget. Nugget will stand there, right there with the geese, and just take the beating from the storm. And I have to manually grab her, bring her inside, dry her off, and then usually I have to lock her up because otherwise she'll go right back out. Like she's anxious to get back out. Whenever I close the aviary to keep Nugget in, right, while it's raining and stuff, Nugget will, no joke, be running back and forth right here where the fence line is, trying to get out, just in like a panic, in like a stressful manner, like just trying to desperately get back to her flock because she belongs to the geese. In her mind, she's one of the geese. She belongs to the geese. She's not a chicken. It took her the longest time to accept any roosters. What are you doing? What are you doing? Anyway, longest time that she would accept any roosters. And she, in the beginning, liked teriyaki, and then teriyaki got meat, okay? And he got much rougher. And when he got rougher, she stopped allowing him to mate with her. So Nugget will like run to the geese. It's really funny in a way because Nugget doesn't want the roosters to mate her unless she chooses she wants to. So like she does by consent only, basically. And she'll take off if one of the roosters is coming close and she doesn't want anything to do with them. She'll take off and she'll run over to Pretty Bird, and then Pretty Bird will chase off the roosters. And she'll hang out with the geese. Whenever she wants to be left alone, she'll take off. She'll go over to the geese, and then the geese will chase off the roosters for her and keep her from being mated by any of the roosters. But the only rooster she will ever let mate her intentionally, where she knows it's going to happen, is this guy. It's Honey right there. And Honey is a very dedicated rooster. He is 100% all about his girls. He's all about protecting his girls. He's all about taking care of them. He's all about, like, if I put down treats, he will not eat one treat until the girls have had their fill and whatever they've left behind. And then he'll announce that he found some more and tries to let them know. Like, he will not take any treats. Even if I hand feed it to him, he'll take it and he'll just hold still and he'll start clucking. He'll go, um, like they have a certain announcement, how they do like a sound, and that's how they tell their girls that they found a treat for them. And he'll just leave it for them. Like that's what he gives them, right? He's also really great about accepting. See, now he's dancing and presenting himself to one of his ladies. But he's also, interesting enough, Honey accepts babies much faster than Teriyaki does. Like Honey does not mind any younger chicks around. He doesn't really chase or attack them. He pecks them here and there. They're trying to take something, but he doesn't really like attack them and like when they're just nearby. It's more like if they're trying to take something in an area where he doesn't want them to take it. But if you watch him, you can see that he's picking up stuff and he drops it and calls them. You hear that sound? You hear that sound? That's what roosters, that's the sound they make to let the girls know. Go cluck, 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 cluck. They make. Hi, honey. Don't attack her. Be nice, honey. Honey's a good rooster. Anyway, Teriyaki, on the other hand, he's much more likely to eat the treats himself as well. It's not that he doesn't announce it for the girls, but he's much more likely to take treats for himself as well and to feed himself as well. Whereas Honey won't eat at all. Like, until the girls are completely done and don't want it, he won't eat at all. Now, and this will happen on a regular, but as you can see, my roosters are actually pretty gentle with the gals. Um, they don't usually keep going if the girls don't wanna. Like, if they're pulling away and fighting, they usually let them go most of the time. Um, Teriyaki is a massive rooster. That's a regular sized chicken next to him. He's just a massive rooster. And I know there are bigger ones, but he's a big boy. And he is a Bielefelder, most likely not a purebred, but he's a Bielefelder rooster. And the reason why I put up with his attitude is because he does have an attitude towards me as well. Is because I have witnessed him fight an aerial predator when they tried to swoop down and attack our chickens. He jumped and spurred him right before that bird could have grabbed one of our chickens and basically spurred him out of the air and attacked him. And then the aerial predator took off, and we haven't had an attack since. Knock on wood. Anyway, so he kind of proved himself, in my opinion. So I'm willing to deal with that attitude from him because not only do him and Honey work together really well, like they work well together, but on top of that, they're both good roosters to their girls. Teriyaki is a strong fighter. He's a massive rooster, and Honey is like the sweetheart. You know what I mean? Like he's like the one that's like always there with the girls. He's always taking care of them, always looking out to what they need. And Teriyaki is a little bit more of the brute guy, the big muscle guy, but more in like the idea of like a Viking or something, not like in like the frat boy kind of version of it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I see them in my mind. Like, you know, like Honey is a little bit more of the romantic guy. Teriyaki is more of like the stern, rough around the edges kind of guy. You know, the warrior or whatever. But and yeah, yes, I know. I read into it. Yes, I know it's ridiculous, and yes, I know that is not really what's going on. Okay, I'm not stupid. I know I read into this stuff, but in a way, I do know their personalities very well, and to try and describe kind of how you can see them personality-wise. My Kuchin's beating up one of, sorry, one of my Kuchins was beating up one of the chicks, which is the juveniles, but she's like a quarter of their size. So she's like, get out of here. I'm above you. I'm higher in the pecking order. Because she's older. It's just funny. Anyway, so I know that they're chickens and roosters. I know that obviously Teriyaki is not a freaking Viking and Honey is not romantic. Okay. I'm saying that if I were to compare it, if I were to try to describe how they behave around the girls, that's how I would compare it to the human world. Like, it's just a way for me to try and describe to you guys a better way of what I'm trying to say. Are you done yet? Crispy? Hi, Crispy. Hi, Crispy. Crispy. Hi, Crispy. Are you having a hard time in there? Hmm? Not good. Okay. You can take all the time you need. I'm just worried about you, Mama. Let me know if you're having problems, okay? I'm keeping everybody out so you can have peace, all right? Love you, Nugget. And that's Nugget, the chicken who thinks she's a goose. It's always with the geese. And she's awesome. She's the bestest chicken. And Honey is the goodest boy. But here we've got Spicy. So glad you're finally regrowing your back feathers, honey. You're looking beautiful. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm so glad. Good job, sweetheart. You're looking beautiful. My girls are regrowing their feathers. Last year, we had a couple of juveniles, and it was just, some of the juveniles were just so rambunctious so early on that they started mounting the girls. And it only went on for a little while, but in that little while, they did a lot of damage on the feathers of girls, and because they were so rough. Now I have a separate rooster flock. It's one of the reasons why I'm building this corner here. And and I separated them out. And since then, the girls have been, without some of their feathers, and they've been working on regrowing their feathers now recently. So some of them still are in this stage, meaning they're still missing feathers. But a lot of them have already regrown most, if not all, of their feathers. Barbecue was one of them that had lost a lot of her feathers, and you can see she's completely back to normal. The rooster numbers are where they're supposed to be right now for active mating roosters. She's one of the ones that still needs to regrow some of her feathers. So we've got, excuse me, we've got 3 ladies left that need to regrow their feathers. Now, where is she? Rosemary, she went through a big ordeal last. Whoa, that's a ditch. Rosemary went through a big ordeal last year. Let me see where Rosie is. Rosemary. Nah. Kit. Kitty. 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 Leave him alone. Let's go. You guys don't like being chased by dogs. Anyway, you see where Rosie is. Rosemary. There she is. Rosemary's wearing a saddle. The reason Rosemary's looking like that, and she's a gorgeous chicken when her feathers are back in, but the reason why Rosemary's looking like this is because Rosemary went through several things within a short period of time. So she had really nasty bumblefoot, okay? Then she got an upper respiratory infection. Then she went through avian pox. And she went through the whole rooster ordeal. So, and all of these things were all happening back to back to back, okay? So she went through a few things. And while she went through the bumblefoot thing, her status in the flock was completely diminished to pecking order lowest of the flock, which means that she was being bullied on top of everything else by everyone else during that time. So not only was she not feeling well and I had to separate her out and I had to protect her, but then I had to figure out how to reintegrate her without her getting beat up again. And so because Rosemary, when she tried to regrow her feathers, the pecking order thing happened and she lost a bunch of her feathers during that time. She also happens to be both of the roosters' favorite, meaning that she is more targeted for mating. So I put a saddle on her, and I'm hoping she regrows her feathers here really soon, now that it's spring again and everybody's going to grow out their feathers again, because they don't grow feathers as often as you think they do. Once a lot of their feathers have been, like, ripped out, they take a while for them to be able to regrow them again. And so if you see somebody who has a chicken flock where a couple of their chickens are missing some feathers, they might have had mites. It's possible. It happens. They might have had a mean rooster. They might have had a couple roosters, or they maybe didn't know that some of their juveniles were roosters and they didn't figure it out right away. They might have had a pecking order issue where some of their chickens were pecking out feathers from other chickens and eating those feathers, which can be caused by nutritional issues. Anyways, in the end, there can be multiple reasons why a chicken may be missing some feathers, but to keep in mind not to judge people too harshly too quickly, because it can take several weeks, if not a couple of months, before a chicken regrows their feathers again. And during that time, your chicken looks a little beat up. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad chicken owner or keeper, or that you're not caring for your chickens. but it means that we all make mistakes and that we all have things happening and that we don't always know exactly what to do, or that we don't always have the capability of doing it as fast as we want to do it. That's going to fix the situation. And also that things just require time. It requires time to regrow feathers. It requires energy, and it requires nutrition and a lot of different. Kit is trying to shove herself inside of this plastic thing. You see that? It's just such a cat moment. I would not be surprised if she goes into that and lays down. She shoves herself in there. That little weirdo. Anyway, I'm just trying to let you guys know that, like, there's a lot more to it. Like, Pretty Bird's feathers look like hell right now. The reason his feathers look like hell right now is not because he's not well fed. It's not because he's not well taken care of, or because he's, any of the other things. It's because he's been fighting with the African ganders. And they've been having mating fights, as in they're fighting over the right to mate the females. Well, Layla in this case. And I have several females here who are not ready to mate yet. And around this time of the year, you might come across a lot of photos of a lot of geese, especially females that are missing feathers on the back of their heads, back of their necks, and on their back area. And you'll probably come across a lot of males that are also missing feathers, or their wings look like hell. The wind is pushing it. Cat's just like, what is that? She's fascinated by that thing. Anyways, you might come across a lot of bees looking like this right now. It doesn't mean, again, that the owners are not caring for their animals, or that they don't love their animals, or aren't doing what they're supposed to do. It just means that things happen to all of us. Things like this can be caused by many different things. And there's never just one cause for an issue with these animals. Like Squirt, she needs to regrow some feathers. Her wings, they look like crap. The reason her wings look like crap is because the Canadas, and especially the African ganders, but the Canadas as well, have been picking on her. She decided to be mean to them when they were goslings. Their answer to that was to now bully her that they're adults. She wouldn't accept them. She kept chasing them. She kept biting them when they were babies. Now they treat her like crap, and they're bigger than her now. And so I have to put things in place to make sure that she can get away. I'm also trying to get my hands on another cackling so that Squirt can have her own little, buddy for herself, where she can be separate with that buddy overnight. But even when I lock her up, what's up, honey? What's wrong? What's wrong, honey? Is Nugget done? So, like, when I set up in here, for an example, Squirt fits to this corner right here. So she can get away from this area right here. She can also get away through here and here and over there. So Squirt has multiple locations where she can go, where the other geese can't reach her, can't follow her. She can choose where she goes in the coop. She has basically run of the entire coop, whereas the other geese only have certain locations they can access, and they have restrictions on where they can go. And I did that intentionally to make sure that Squirt can stay safe, so that she doesn't, have to be picked on. If they're getting mean to her, she can get away. But I'm always trying my best to do the right thing for my birds and to treat them well and do the best I can for them. But I screw up a lot. I make a lot of mistakes. And it doesn't mean that I'm a bad bird owner. It doesn't mean that I don't love my birds. It just means that I'm human, and there's a lot of things to account for that we can't always control, and that I'm always learning, and that I do make a lot of mistakes along the way. There's a lot of mistakes I've made. Even in little things, I've made a lot of mistakes. Just things that maybe aren't as obvious. There's most likely 17 different mistakes I'm still making. It's one of the reasons why I always tell people whenever I talk about stuff, if you're taking advice from me, please double check it. Please do your own research. Don't just take mine or anyone else's word for something, okay? Do your own research. Educate yourself because you never know if there's something that person might be missing unintentionally, not intentionally, unintentionally missing. And because of that, that could potentially have consequences, negative consequences for you, your animal, or whatever it is that you're working on. So I always say, do your own research. Sure, always listen to everyone's advice, to hear it, pay attention, but then go and do your own research and figure it out for yourself. He loves to go up on that grill and does cock-a-doodle-doo. Hey, honey. Hi, honey. Good morning. Hi, honey. You're such a good boy. Yes, honey. Good boy, honey. Yes, honey. Good boy. Good boy, honey. Anyway, excuse me, kitty. So I'm going to be doing this thing where I'm taking this gate, this old dog kennel that I've had forever, but still works. I've left it outside and smell, but still. Like this. Place it right here. Taking the grass seeds. Notice all my girls trying to come over here and take them. No, you can't have it. I'm curious if that will work. Obviously, they'll get the stuff from around the edging. But I'm curious if this will work in the long run. I'll leave that there. Other thing, still back teriyaki. Don't attack me. Anyway, the other thing I'm going to do, I got a few ways that I'm testing out my grass seeds. So, one of the things I did last year was I got stuff to sprout by planting it and then putting this over it. Create it like a protective layer for the birds not to mess with it. Excuse me. So, and I'm going to do a little bit more like this. Create a little area that I'm going to have covered with some stuff. And we'll see how that works out. And we'll see if in a couple of days they'll start to sprout. What works better, if it works at all. And if I can potentially regrow or get seeds to sprout this way, because I reseeded them all over this yard, and I'm pretty sure my chickens picked up all of it. Anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and get off here. Got some more stuff to do, but I'm going to need 2 hands to do that. So, and let's see, what time is it? Yeah, it's 3 o'clock. So, got about an hour before I've got a meeting with one of my children for a mama-daughter afternoon, evening time. So, I hope that you guys have a wonderful day if I don't log on later. But I got to go ahead and focus on getting some things knocked out so I can get back in the house. I hope that you guys will learn a thing or two from the things that I've done wrong over time, or the things that I think I should have done better over time. Pretty Bird will be 4 soon. Those 2 Canada Geese ladies, Blue and Charlie, they'll be 1 this May. Squirt will be 2 this July, I believe it was. Both of the big ganders over there, the African ganders, they're hatchery or production Africans. They are not purebred super Africans. Anyways, they will be 1 this May as well. Miss Layla's 2. And my chickens are anywhere from, what is it, 3.5 years to 4.5 months old. Anyway, hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for stopping in.